There's two action items on the agenda, correct? Is from what I saw on my iPad before the meeting. Approval of minutes and the critical action ordinance, right?
And I
we are
don't,
live,
I don't think I even have a copy of the minutes. Have you got a copy of the minutes?
We can put it off till next week.
That was the plan, to put all of that off.
Well, that's what I had heard from you the other day, but
Yeah.
the agenda said something different, so I
Well,
didn't know.
I
Hello there, Peter.
I think we're gonna change that.
After I posted
Good evening,
the
David.
agenda.
Here comes Joe. We're just about ready. We're gonna go early, I think. We're ready?
It's live. There's nothing that says we can't start. I mean, that way no one's waiting on me.
Okay. Do you wanna look at that machine right there and tell me why I can't send something to EW1?
The expert.
You have a computer like the rest of us now?
Sometimes,
Any duplicate?
yes. I have had, but
Getting it to work is.
But it functions like the rest of it. I thought that's what you meant. You weren't being facetious. Does mine function as well as yours?
Yeah.
Yes.
Joe,
Yes, it does.
good. How are you doing?
So you did it right. My guess is that it's on his phone. I'd have to take a look at his phone. My
Okay.
guess is that his phone has not got its iMessage connection set up properly. I need to work on both sides for it to be delivered. But
Okay.
I did a test between our personal phone and this, and I did a test between my phone and this, and they both worked. So indication is this is working fine, his phone is not.
That's very possible. Speaking apple to apple, it should know how to communicate, shouldn't it?
Not apples to kumquats.
I think that's what might have would have. Yeah, I'm not going any farther
Finally
with that.
sent my email, Joe.
What's that?
Finally sent it to you. Thank you. I know. Only took me lots of
It's
effort.
7 o'clock on April 6th. I think we'll call this special meeting to order right now. And we'll call roll first. Council position 1, Joe Ormond.
Here.
David Budrius, number 2.
David Budrius.
Sorry, David. Stephen Hardy.
Here.
Peter Davenport.
Here.
And Levi Shank.
I am here.
Wow. Thank you, gentlemen. So we've had roll call now. We called the meeting to order. Any of the visitors like to be acknowledged and have their name on the
I'm
minutes?
the only woman here, yeah, Normally, I'm not the only one here.
So
I'll
you-
just crack the whip.
You'd like to be known that Chris
Yes.
Moritz
The only
is
woman
here.
Stan Roth.
Okay?
I'm not here.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for coming. We've recognized our visitors. We're going to change and we're not going to approve or well, we are going to do that. We're not going to do the minutes or bills or anything else. This will wait till next week. The thing we are asking you to approve is our rough draft of our COA. CAO, excuse me. Jerry, can you grab the one with the big bulldog clamp? I believe everybody got a copy of that.
Mhm.
Peter, you got your copy?
I did.
You did? Has everybody had a chance to look through this at all?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what we need to do is to just approve this so that we can get together with Jen Dial tomorrow and submit it to the state. So it becomes, tomorrow would become the first of the 60-day approval period. And this thing is able to be updated by us.
Okay.
So, go ahead, David.
I have a question. This map, I believe it was 1988,
Yes.
it's the FEMA,
It's cattywampus.
well, that too, but it's inaccurate, the way they have it drawn out here.
I don't doubt that.
And for the purposes of, so everybody knows, that Glover Street, they left out Main Street, and it's not,
Yeah.
it's not proportionate. I mean, there's a street there that is, they're mismarked.
So these are not the maps that we want to submit with the final draft? We have not been able to get together with Courtney from the county. She has not answered our phone calls or emails, and we have people from the Department of Commerce working with her to get us appropriate maps. And according to Jen Dial, those can be sent through at another time.
Okay, that's perfect, 'cause that was my question.
The most important thing that she's concerned about is that we have actually put this document together, and this was Wilbur's document.
Wilbur?
Wilbur's,
Yeah.
yes,
Reardon's was 690 pages.
yeah.
So I move the adoption of the CIO as presented, which
No.
would at least put it into discussion.
No, second.
Thank you, Stephen. So it's been moved by Stephen and seconded by Levi. And now we're on the floor for discussion, so go ahead, David, continue on.
Well, I was just, if we're not bound by this particular
Document,
1988, yeah,
that's true.
If
then I would be all for it. But I just didn't want to vote for something that we're bound on the record.
we are, to a sense, this is the federal FEMA map that was the most current one. Until the federal emergency management folks come through and redo the map, this is the prevailing map.
But that's not within our jurisdiction for it to be right or wrong.
Correct, but we do have to refer to it.
Sure,
in this
but I'm saying
document.
it's not up to us to approve it. Being
No,
that
we-
it is produced by a federal agency, the correctness of that map is not a part of the measure tonight.
Yeah, and that's true. I'm just pointing out that this was for reference, but, and I appreciate that it's wrong,
Well,
but
I know it, down here it says something about contact them. This is 1988, yeah, September 30th of 1988.
that is the,
But the-
when I went onto their website, that was the most current map that they have on file for Harrington.
They placed a creek one block out of position.
Well, they did that too, but I got a question, kind of like that, but the Zone A, the dark gray here, which looks like a river,
Yeah,
what is that supposed to designate? I don't see
That's the
any-
floodplain itself,
Okay.
the area that the water would go to if it rose high enough.
The only reason why I bring that up, well, it doesn't affect me, it does on part of my property, but it does affect, some businesses or, well, for example, Mike Harrington Truck and Auto,
yeah.
he's swimming.
In the city shops?
And the
They had
city
to
shop.
they had
Yeah.
to sandbag all
Yeah,
that when
you're
I was a
absolutely
kid a couple times.
95.
It was 95.
We
Okay.
had other issues, yeah.
Right.
But that was,
Yeah, I remember that.
So if I can speak to this the document that we're talking about today, in part this one, when it comes to the flood map, those are those areas, that grayed out area is the area where it's potential that it would come out of the river channel or stream, creek channel.
Overflow the
whatever.
banks.
Overflow, and it's a 1% chance, so they're basically saying one time in 100 years, this is a possibility that these areas would be
Underwater.
underwater,
so,
is all they're saying. And where the relevance is, if I may, is new construction only.
that's what I was gonna ask you.
What they're saying is if somebody wants to build or rebuild a house, like maybe one of those single wides that's in this area goes away and they want to put a house there, they have to follow the FEMA guidelines, which the most significant one is that they have to build that ground floor above the flood zone, which means an elevation certificate from a surveyor.
Okay. That makes sense.
So
Which
it
is
doesn't say
1
they
to 3
can't build
feet.
there.
I think if you look back here.
It just says that they have to build there within these specifications. And the significance of that is they will not get a federally backed loan, FHA, VA, what have you.
Right.
Unless it is built to the FEMA requirements.
Okay, thanks, that's
Did anybody find a definition of a critical area? It's not just floodplain.
Critical areas are, I think, on the second page, third page. in
You're
here,
on
Pete.
5th, aren't you, David?
Yeah, you see,
Okay, right down
I
here.
couldn't find it if it's there.
I think it's on page 4.
It's-
Wetlands areas, critical recharged areas, fish and wildlife habitat areas, frequently flooded areas, and geological hazardous areas.
Are there critical areas that are not water related or water challenged?
Yes.
Fire
Yes.
areas?
Significant hills, like a significant hillside or a cliff, would be considered one of those geological hazardous areas.
Is that referencing flooding as well, as in it could slide, or is that just because of the material it's made out of, that if something happened, it could fall apart?
Or an earthquake would cause
Right,
it to break
okay.
loose.
Okay.
Just an unstable piece of ground.
You're rolling the dice if you build there.
Typically, from my experience, if it's a 30-degree or greater
Slope? Okay.
you shouldn't be building that. Not without significant engineering.
just for sake of discussion, if you look at the map again, going for, the city lagoons right now in a Vista power plant, so is this gonna affect the lagoons in any way going forward with anything?
Aren't the lagoons down here?
They're on this street right
Right
here.
here,
Yeah.
right where that, right in the
Okay.
creek.
This is the road that comes in.
Okay.
That's Sherlock.
Yeah.
If you start at the school and go straight down, you'll wind up down there. And a Vista's power plant right there. And I just wonder how.
How it was ever allowed to begin with?
Well, yeah, how they view that, if that's gonna be a problem with anything. Probably is now that I mentioned it.
I think if they drew this of real size, I don't know if you'd even be able to see it on the map.
Right.
Yeah, so just how specific they are detailed on this here.
I
Other than
know.
that,
When you were talking to Courtney one day, she started laying layers, so that she has this on her computer in different layers. And when she put all 5 layers, she said there was nothing of significance in our town other than a couple of farmers' fields where they have cows, which is, I'm sure, across the street from like the Cinex. That's probably floodplain down in there.
Yeah, it is.
So what this
been a long time since that's
document
filled up.
says is if that farmer decides to sell that portion of land and have houses built on it, this document is dictating how those houses would be approved to be built.
yeah,
From the looks of it, quite honestly, this document addresses very little real estate in the city of Harrington.
well, there's very little real estate in Harrington anyways.
Just the stuff along
Yeah,
the
that's
creek.
true. There's a couple trailers up in here. There's what I would call a real mobile up off,
By the tennis courts?
no, down in here, it's being by, Joyce Heron down back in that area.
Oh, that's down, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
so I see where you're at.
And he's right next to the canal here somewhere.
Yeah,
There's a very good chance that trailer is not,
Livable anyway.
well, if the flood comes, I'll bet he's got 3 feet of water
Oh, yeah.
above his door.
But again, this is just addressing
What if?
what
ifs,
if in the
yeah.
future, and it really has to do with how we're going to act if in the future somebody wants to do something different with these properties. This doesn't address anything that's existing. Doesn't change anything that's existing.
Is there, question, is there any association, any connection between the Growth Management Act and the Critical Area Ordinance? Is that what
GMA?
these,
This is within the
Growth
Growth Management Act.
it's a subset of it?
Yes.
This is one piece of it. Correct. This falls within the GME.
Those RCWs that are addressed on the beginning of this document, those are largely part of the Growth Management Act for the state of Washington.
Thank you.
And there's also several more pieces that are not time sensitive as this one was. We have to go through and get together with the NEPA, the DAHP, and SEPA. But those are not time sensitive
State
issues.
Environmental Protection Act.
For the purposes of our loan or loan application.
I just think they
Other
like
loans,
jamming capital
actually.
letters together.
Not this particular one that we're working on for the sewage treatment plant, the wastewater treatment plant. Jerry, did you come up with the actual number yet? For this ordinance? What you thought it was? We're still going?
I have not run into a conflicting number with that,
And this is going to be 506,
505.
505. That wasn't on here, but it's going to be
As of
ordinance
now?
number 505. And we have been digging through boxes for the last couple days to determine what the last actual ordinance was that we passed. So,
You said 505 is not indicated?
505 should be right at the top of the page where it says ordinance. You can write that in if you
On
want
my
to.
copy, it's indicated.
That's
Okay,
because
good.
it was numbered before I printed off your copy.
Yeah.
Call the question.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we accept this draft ordinance number 505 to submit to the Department of Commerce. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed say the same? Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen. We're gonna call anything from the public.
Is this open for any subject at this point?
Yes.
I have a couple of questions. The first one is addressed to the mayor and the council. 2 weeks ago, I brought paper packets of my final version of the report of the cemetery history. And there was some comments of mine at the end of that. And then it was asked that I'd send electronic versions to everybody, and I did that the next day, and I hope that you all got them.
We did.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's been a couple of weeks, and I just thought I would toss out the question as to whether anybody had questions on anything they've seen in that so far.
No.
Were the
Appreciation for
dates
your
on the
hard work.
long form corrected in the one you handed out, second one you handed out?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, the dates and the sequence are all correct in the one that I electronically emailed to you. And that I handed out at the meeting.
Stan, I will confess I've not had an opportunity to read it. I've been wrapped around this document.
I
So,
understand.
but it is right here in front of me, and I will do so. If I have any questions, may I just fire off an email to you?
You bet.
Okay.
To follow up with that, next week is a full-blown city council meeting.
Okay.
So we can, if you're
And
gonna be,
the second question, I'm not sure if I should address this to Jerry or to the treasurer, but the question is, have we seen any income from the endowment fund come to the city at this point to be deposited? We have seen some come in. Okay,
We've received a couple statements. There has been an uptick in the interest rate. But I can't speak to the specific because he's got the paperwork.
okay, that's fine. I was curious as to whether we were starting to see any impact at all from having moved that fund into the state investment pool.
Yeah,
And at some point, we may want to sit down and take a look at what kind of yield it's actually producing to the city to get ready for any further discussion we might want to have. Okay,
yeah, I think roughly, we've probably made over $200 since we transferred it.
total. Okay,
And that's probably more than we've made in years on the other one.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking interest earnings?
Interest,
Yeah, just the earnings.
Mhm.
The earnings is all we wanna take off with that.
CD is a
And
side.
by ordinance 386, the earnings from the endowment fund that it gets in interest and dividends should be coming to the city to be applied to regular annual cemetery maintenance costs. Okay, that was a good answer. I'm happy to hear that. I wasn't sure what the state would be sending us in the way of statements or, information on that investment with them.
Yeah, they are sending statements,
Okay,
and they're easy to read,
okay,
so
good.
that helps.
At some point, I'll probably appreciate getting to take a look at those and see how they show the information.
I'll get a copy from the treasurer.
Next week will be fine.
Do they indicate an interest rate?
Yes, they do.
What's that rate?
Don't know off the
It
top of
varies.
my head.
It varies from month to month.
I'll have copies of those here next week.
Yeah, good.
I don't think I've
I
got.
wouldn't expect the yield to be a lot more from the state pool than what we were getting on what was invested. The problem where the funds were before they were moved to the state pool was that as treasury bonds matured or were called in, those funds weren't being reinvested for the last 5 or 10 years, and they were just laying there as cash in a bank account. The only thing that was producing interest at that point was the money that was still in CDs.
Interest rates have been so low.
Any further questions?
That's the only thing I had to, I thought maybe this was a chance to throw out the questions so that you'd have a chance to kind of review what's there and that I could answer anything that wasn't clear or that wasn't well stated. You'll have another shot at me next week for that.
Okay.
I'll be prepared.
Levi, did you, wish to make a motion?
I move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.